Hey guys and gals, welcome back to another Haunted Gaming. This week I'll be talking about Jvk1166z.esp, a creepypasta about a Morrowind mod. This creepypasta starts out with a player who tells us about a once popular mod for a game called The Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, a popular open-world fantasy action RPG series developed by Bethesda Softworks, and later ported to the Xbox by Ubisoft. The player tells us that this mod was very popular at the time, and only a small amount of people were allowed to obtain it through a small message board. Apparently it got popular because it was a virus, or at least seemed to be. So apparently if you attempted to play Morrowind with the mod, it would just freeze at the initial loading screen and crash back to the desktop. Nobody could figure out what this mod was doing since it couldn't be opened up in the construction kit, the official mod creator tool for the game, similar to the Jvk for Fallout. Apparently, a year after the popularity for the mod began to die down, and the player visited a gaming forum website that he or she used to frequent very often. A user on the forum was sent a private message containing the mod by another user on the forum who deleted his or her account shortly after sending this message. The user who was trying to host this mod on the forum said that this mystery user who sent him or her the mod had said to try playing the mod using DOSBox, a DOS emulator that is primarily used for running old PC games on modern computers. The player said that the game was laggy, however, obviously being used in DOSBox, and that you couldn't access many of the game's features such as options and load game, only the game itself. The player said that upon starting the game, the player would be dropped into the census office, like you would in the official game itself. But upon leaving this office into the main game world, the player would notice a text box stating, "The prophecy has been severed." This basically means that every main NPC character that is related to the main quest is dead, with the exception of Yagrum Begarn, the last of the Dwemer. The corpses never despawn, however, so you can go and check each of them, and their dead bodies, since they never despawn after killing them. Essentially, this mod basically starts you out in a game world that is already doomed to begin with. The second thing the mod does is constantly make your character lose health, but only by a little bit each time, but getting progressively quicker if you stand in one place too long. Upon losing your health and dying, you notice a figure who the player and the gaming community, the gaming forum, called the Assassin, kill you and crawl all over your in-game character's dead body like a spider, and moved very fast in the shadows, so playing the game at night was very difficult according to the player. The other noticeable difference was that during the nighttime, every in-game character would go out and say, "Watch the sky," and then proceeded back to their normal behavior. After a while of venturing through Morrowind, the player discovered a brand new in-game character called Tierras, who was a male Dunmer at the Temple of Ghostgate. Tierras gave the player a quest related to the dungeon simply known as the Citadel. This dungeon was called the Citadel. So the player, upon arriving at the Citadel, noticed that it was just a cave leading downwards into an ancestral tomb. The player tells us that the enemies inside the Citadel, basically in the outer area of the Citadel, were very powerful and had to be taken care of with a character at least level 20. At least with the level 20 with, strength and everything. So the player, since he couldn't cheat in the game because it was running in DOSBox and the player didn't have options, to basically cheat the level or change the level to 20. So the player decided that, they couldn't do it and they didn't have the strength to, and they just gave up. So the player then tells us that the adventures of those who actually got further than him or her in this mod, the other people on this gaming forum, said that they reached this hall that they called a portrait room. At the end of this hall, they reached a locked door, and they couldn't open it no matter what they tried. They couldn't find a key, they couldn't pick a lock, they couldn't do anything. So all the players decided, you know what, they gave up. So shortly after admitting their defeat, the players all returned to Tierras, and all Tierras could say now was "watch the sky," like all the other NPCs. Because the other NPCs now couldn't say anything else. They had no actual dialogue, they wouldn't even greet you. All they said was "watch the sky" at night. So some players, noticed that the night sky was not the in-game night sky that the developers put in, but actually a depiction of a real night sky. like a real-life night sky with proper constellations and everything. So now the player tells us, this information that one user on the forum gave, and was eventually kicked off the forum. So this one user told us that in the real-life night sky being depicted in the game, it looked like it was from February 2005. So the sky looked like, because the placement of the stars and everything looked to be as if it was from February 2005. And they moved just like they did in reality. So this user also told us about the scale of time in the game, where roughly every in-game hour matched up to 24 real-life hours. So the user supposed that this locked door in the Citadel would open on some real-life celestial event, and decided to wait one entire day in the game, which would equal a year's worth of movement. I have no idea if they waited one entire day in the game or a day in real life, but it seems that it would be a day in real life, and I'll get to that later. So anyways, the user reported that the door was still locked and decided instead of waiting for a day, they should wait for 3 days instead, because of the release of DOSBox, which was around February 2008, I believe, or what it was listed in this creepypasta. But anyways, so they decided to wait 3 years because obviously the private message originally by this user who gave the mod said use it in DOSBox, so that was their reasoning. So later on, this user decides, yeah, wait 3 entire days, which would match up to 3 years of movement. And the user who was doing all this also said that the assassin in the game originally could also scream in the game, like a blood-curdling scream, and was following him, and all the in-game characters constantly would say, watch this guy now. The user was so scared, in fact, that he or she eventually gave up and said that they were done and would never deal with this stuff again. Other users on the forum who got to the portrait room said that the assassin began to show up in unmodded copies of the game, where, Morrowind was never really installed with this mod, but the assassin began showing up, which is kind of off. But anyways, so the player decides to email the user that was scared of the game, and shortly after sending this email, he got a reply from a user stating that he was retrying this mod after initially freaking out over it, and noticed that every in-game character began to move into caves and sewers from the in-game cities themselves. And this time, they wouldn't even talk anymore. They wouldn't even, say, watch the sky. So the player believed this user was getting really paranoid and told him to get some sleep. The user replied and told the player about a horrific dream where the assassin screamed at him and he was crouching over him in the dream, until finally waking up in real life in front of the computer, with the game running, while hearing a tapping in the window. This is where the creepypasta ends, with the player wanting a copy of this mod, so that he or she may witness these events firsthand. Now, as much as I do love this creepypasta, it's really awesome, really well written, really realistic. I do have issues with it, however. But I want to talk about the good thing, why it's realistic. Well, the reason I think it's realistic is because it's a mod for an Elder Scrolls game. And as far as I know, Elder Scrolls, Bethesda Softworks, they release a really, really good, official modding tool for both of their open world role-playing games, namely Fallout and Elder Scrolls. For Elder Scrolls, it's the construction kit. For Fallout, it's the GEC. They're both really good, and you can do a lot with these mods. There's nothing stopping you. You can do almost anything you want to the game. So it doesn't seem weird, it doesn't seem off that something like this could exist. But since I can't find an official mod for it, I can't really prove that it exists. Some things that I really find off about this, though, is the fact that it uses DOSBox. Why would you need to use DOSBox for Morrowind? A mod doesn't do that. A mod doesn't, mods can do a lot of things, but they can't really, degrade a game so bad that it just doesn't run on hardware it was intended to. DOSBox is made for that, for running older PC games and other programs, but primarily for older PC games, mostly because these older games, like Doom 1, Doom 2, Elder Scrolls, the two Elder Scrolls, Daggerfall and Arena, to run on, PCs, modern PCs, they can't run on a modern computer nowadays because the way our graphics are working nowadays, the way we handle our graphics, our processing, they don't compute well with older games. They don't understand what we're doing. So that's why we need DOSBox, so we can emulate the game. That's the only reason we need it. Morrowind is relatively new, actually. I mean, even appearing on the original Xbox, so it was using some pretty advanced 3D graphics for its time. And it shouldn't have a problem running on modern PCs nowadays at all, as far as I can tell. Another thing that was off to me was the map. Now, the creepypasta inside it, as I read through the creepypasta, the user who was giving this timescale of one in-game hour equaling to 24 real-life hours. Okay, so we'll keep that scale in mind. That would mean if the player waited one whole day in the game, like they said in the creepypasta, it would mean 2 months of complete star transformations. Because in the scale they said if 1 hour equaled 24 hours, then an entire day in-game, that means 24 in-game hours would equal 2 months of real-time hours. So let's do the math. 24 times 24 should equal 576. Okay, I agree with you on that. But here's the problem. If what you're saying equals 2 months of real-time star movements, real-time hours, 2 months is exactly 1,461 hours. That's how much 2 months are. So the math doesn't add up there. Now, the user themselves had said that they decided to wait one whole day, so that would be a year's worth of transformation. Knowing with this information in mind, that's not an entire 1 year transformation. That is not even, that transformation, 576 hours, isn't even 2 months. So let's do the math here again. 24 times 24 times 24. You can just do 24 cubed. That would be about 13,824 hours in real time. That is weird because considering there are only 8,765.81 hours in real life. In real time hours. So the math doesn't add up. That's the thing. It was really hard to comprehend it originally because of the math too. I'm like, as I was reading through it, right, I didn't get what they were talking about, like the math, it just didn't make any sense. And this whole 576 hours to 13,824 hours is a really, really, really big window of time. So all I gotta say is it's just a complete mind fuck. So that's really all I gotta say about this. I mean, it's a really awesome creepypasta, but there are things holding it back. But, I mean, it is still realistic because, like I said, it's a Morrowind, an Elder Scrolls mod. They can do almost anything they want with this. You've seen what they've been able to do with Skyrim, and Oblivion and whatnot. So it's definitely plausible, but I couldn't find any videos or, anything showing me actual existing proof of this mod. Just a couple pictures I found on the creepypasta itself. Nothing actually like a video that I could see or an actual mod I could play through. So as far as I could tell, it's not real. And does it have to be? No. It's a good creepypasta, it's scary and whatnot, and it even gained a lot of popularity. In fact, as I was playing through Skyrim a couple days ago, I noticed some of the guards saying, "Watch the sky." And hey, I'm not gonna lie, but if dragons were burning me, I'd be watching the sky too. So that's all really I gotta say. It's a really good creepypasta, really creepy. I did enjoy it, and I did try to play Morrowind again, but I couldn't because after reading this, it was kind of creepy. But yeah. So definitely check this out, links are in the description below. You owe it to yourself to read it through, and if you guys can find a copy of this mod, please tell me about it. I really want to play it for you guys for haunted gaming and whatnot. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. This has been another episode of Haunted Gaming. If you like what you saw, like, comment, subscribe. Be sure to stay tuned for Cancelled Gaming coming up on Monday. So yeah, that's it. Have a nice day. Some Ordinary Gamers out.